Welcome to Business Talk, presented in collaboration with the University of Rio Grande and the Ohio State University South Centers, from the heart of southeastern Ohio at the University of Rio Grande TV studio. Our goals are simple: promote the University of Rio Grande and the Ohio State University South Centers, as well as advocate local small business and their support organizations. More importantly, promote southeastern Ohio as a wonderful place to live, explore, and learn. There are many different ways you can find us. The University of Rio Grande Cable Access Channel 17, live online at blogtalkradio.com, and on YouTube if you are unable to catch our show live. Introducing our co-hosts, Jason Winters, Mike Thompson, Patrick Dingle. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show.
Hey, welcome back to our show. You know, Jason, we have quite a lineup this today at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 3 o'clock. And it's our pleasure to have some really important people that are coming here to share information.
Well, I know we had a very interesting conversation over lunch today. We covered everything from politics to tattoos.
Speaking of
quite an interesting conversation.
Yes, and if Dr. Sachs were here at lunch, he would have added politics, tattoos, and education.
Oh, I thought maybe you were going to say Indian chiefs. You know, that's Native American studies is his specialty. So.
That is true. That is true. Well, at 3 o'clock, he has two authors. They are also past affiliated with University of Rio Grande as faculty individuals. They're going to be talking about their book. Mm-hmm. They're going to be talking about country music, and I'm looking forward to that because history is sort of something that I'm drawn to. And then
so Dr. Sachs is covering textbooks that someone has written, right? and we're going to cover checkbooks.
Yes, checkbooks. So. Well, before we do that, at 2 o'clock we have two really good artists that are very, very good with the tattoos. And I learned a lot of different things. And I'll be quite frank with you, when my wife has ever wanted a tattoo, I would say no. If she were to get a tattoo, I would ask her to go to them. So they have a really good show on exposition with Mike and Valerie. But today at 1 o'clock, we have two very special guests. Let me ask you a question. How many state agencies and departments do you think state of Ohio has?
I would have no idea.
It's past 80. You know, the Department of Transportation, you know, the school, the education. And, you know, it's rather interesting who gets to write the checks to all the different entities and organizations that are paid by the state of Ohio.
Or better yet, what do all those checks mean?
Well, that's a good question. I would imagine it's quite a nightmare. I thought that the state treasurer's office just handled a little bit about the taxes and things of that nature, and I come to find out they are really into a lot of things, making sure that everyone is honest and forthright.
So who are our special guests today, Pat?
Well, we have, first of all, we have Joshua Burton. He's the Financial Education Officer out of the State Treasurer's Office, Josh Mandel. And then we have...
Oh, don't you hate when that happens, Pat?
Lauren Balwin. She's a regional representative with the State Treasurer's Office. I want to welcome both of you to our show.
Thank you for having us.
You know, before we talk a little bit about some special topics, including the checkbook transparency, tell us about yourselves. And ladies, go first.
That's right.
Well, thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be out here with you all today and discussing some of the initiatives that we're undertaking out of the Treasurer's Office. But I'm Lauren Bowen, obviously, and I'm a regional representative for State Treasurer Josh Mandel, and the both of us together work out of the Cincinnati regional office in order to better serve the constituents in the southern part of Ohio.
Very good, very good. And Cincinnati they do have a good couple of universities down there.
They do, one of which I attended, the University of Cincinnati.
Yes, they are a very good university. And you attended Wright State.
Wright State
Wow.
University. Yep.
Two great universities.
Thank you.
And if we would ever play you in any kind of sports, who would usually win?
It would depend on the sport. I'm just going to have to leave it at that.
Who's we? It depends on who's we.
Either University of Rio Grande or Ohio State University.
Well, I will say Cincinnati is poised for greatness, so always.
And so tell us a little bit about yourself, Josh.
Well, of course, my name is Josh Burton. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for having us here today to talk about the online checkbook and Treasurer Mandel's initiative for transparency. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. I am one of 5 children. My parents had 5 kids. I have a sister and 4 other brothers. I'm number 4 out of 5, but I'm the 3rd son.
So you're the middle child.
No, technically, no. My brother Brandon, who's about 4 years older than me, he's the middle child.
Oh, okay.
I'm right under him, and then there's my little baby brother Caleb. But so I work in the Treasurer's office as a financial education officer, but I also work as a minority business development. I work with minority businesses. I travel to all the major cities in the state of Ohio and the major counties, working to bridge the gap between the Treasurer's office and community organizations and minority businesses.
Well, we have had the opportunity to look at your website, and wow, there's a lot of information on there.
That's right.
And one of the pieces of information is about the transparency. And let's see, it was sort of instituted in 2011. Is that correct?
That's right. That's right. The online or the transparency project started with Treasurer Mandel in 2011, where we put state properties and state salaries online. This was an important task, especially given 112 million transactions, 3.9.
112 million?
That's right, 112 million transactions in the state of Ohio, 3.9 billion in expenditure, or excuse me, in pieces of spending information, and $408 billion in expenditure. So obviously this is a lot of money and a lot of information to put into one specific area, which is why the OhioCheckbook.com was created.
You know, Jason, I always thought it would be neat to be treasurer of the state of Ohio, but can you imagine signing 112 million checks?
I'll pass.
I don't think I would be able to do that.
So, Josh, tell me, what is the Ohio Checkbook? Is that what we're calling it?
That's right,
.com?
The OhioCheckbook.com.
Yeah, show that picture of that they were kind enough to bring down.
Yes,
actually, the one before.
That doesn't look like a checkbook to me.
No, it doesn't look like a typical checkbook, but I believe they have a picture of the state properties as well, which is what they used in 2011. So there's welcome to the Ohio's online checkbook, and I believe you have the picture of the state properties. It's a picture of the state of Ohio. So that was where the transparency project started in 2011, and so we can now move on to the next part, which is the actual front website of the online checkbook. The checkbook is the first of its kind in government transparency websites that shows taxpayers exactly how their tax money is being spent. The initiative set a new national standard in what transparency should look like and what it looks like in state government. What you see here in this picture is that you see 4 parts of the spending information. You have the 2014 state spending, which is $61 billion. The next part is the bar graph, which is the year-to-year spending shown in the bar graph. Below that, you probably won't see the information, but you have the largest expense types of 2014 and the highest paid companies of 2014. And then all the way at the top, right below OhioCheckbook.com, you see the Google-style search bar. It's an intuitive bar. You can put in any letter, and it will pop up, the agencies, names, so it has the ability to predict in a way what you're going to be looking up. So
it's well done, because I had an opportunity to take a look at some of the things, and I found it's very transparent.
Yeah, it's a lot of information.
There was a report from the USPIRG, and that's a Public Information Research Group. And it seems that all the different states got together at one time and said, we need to be a little bit more transparent because of all the amount of money.
So what do we mean by transparency?
Well, we mean providing citizens with the ability to understand the way that at least state government, who we're part of, is spending their money. So it's a shining light and helping to empower citizens to understand the ways that their tax dollars are being spent.
That's right. You know, you mentioned the USPIRG, which is the United States Public Interest Research Group.
Oh, interest. Okay.
Yes, sir. And it's actually a left-leaning think tank. So Josh Mandel, who is our state treasurer, happens to be a Republican conservative, or conservative Republican. We go there and we make this presentation about the online checkbook, and it just blows them away. And they actually endorsed us, and we have gone from 46th in the nation to #1 in the nation in transparency, setting the new national standard. I believe the people of Ohio should be very proud of what's going on.
They should be A+.
That's right, A+ rating.
So what type of financial data is available on this?
So we have expenditures put online as well. All the money that's being spent in the state of Ohio, it can be anything from office equipment, IT services, reimbursements, allowances, as far as reimbursing for mileage. Anything and everything that the state of Ohio spends money on goes into this online checkbook.
So if we see an odd check has been written to something that we would not think about,
right,
we can see what that's for?
Yes, you can. That's the beautiful part about the online checkbook. It actually shows you a real-time check with 35 pieces of spending information on it, everywhere from the date, the check information, the breadcrumbs of which departments it went through, how it was cut. It shows you how it was paid, why it was paid, and lastly, it gives you the contact information to the department that cut that check. So you can call to see, why was X amount of dollars given to the Department of Transportation.
Do you have any interesting examples?
Well, I'll say this. It's about the transparency. So, of course, you have a few anomalies on there, but the important part about the checkbook is that it gives context to the information that's being spent in the state of Ohio. And, during our discussion at lunch, I believe you brought it up.
Yeah, you have a video,
Patrick.
a 2-minute video on there.
Yeah,
that
actually
talked about locating Department of Transportation, I think.
That's right.
Issued a check to Victoria's Secrets.
That's right.
And that,
and of course, you thought that they were buying gifts for their spouses,
or someone, maybe for themselves.
The checkbook tells us that money was spent for what?
Well, once you go to the breadcrumbs and you do call the Department of Transportation, we found out that the check was cut because the Department of Transportation was reimbursing Victoria's Secret for a storage space that was damaged. So.
Yeah, but that's good.
Yeah.
Because I know that a number of the TV stations like Columbus and Cincinnati and Cleveland find it necessary to do some investigation because we individuals don't really know where to turn to.
That's right.
If we have a question.
Sure.
But on the flip side of that money that they're spending is your money and it's my money.
Absolutely.
And we want to make
That's
sure it's being spent correctly.
Yeah.
That's right.
We're
That's
stewards of the taxpayer money.
Absolutely.
And I think it's really good. So you started this program in 2011. Just out of curiosity, what is the functionality
of the data on the
I can't read my writing.
Oh,
sorry.
What type of financial data is tracked on ohiocheckbook.com? And we discussed a lot about that. It can be anything from $2 to a pack of pencils and multi-million-dollar construction expenses at the University of Miami. So it just covers the whole range of things that government entities at the state level spend their money on.
Right. You mentioned the state level, but what about the local level? Is it tracked as well?
You want to answer that?
At this time, we're looking to partner with local governments to see that this is a platform that they can also use to help promote transparency at the local level so that citizens of Gallipolis can even understand the way that the tax dollars that they are generating locally, how it's being spent at the very local levels.
Right. I think the important thing to note about this is it is a partnership. We're going to citizens. We're talking with local officials. The treasurer actually sent out 19,000 letters around the state of Ohio to local officials, public officials, schools, any entity talking about the partnership with putting their information online. This comes at no cost for the local governments, and the treasurer has made a point that we will take on the efforts of getting all of this information and data onto the checkbook. It's going to be important because this checkbook and local governments, the citizens are the ones who keep us accountable. We serve them. This checkbook is going to make sure it puts every public official with the fire under their feet, making sure that they're being accountable to how the money's being spent. It's your money, and you should know where it's going.
And I think that's important.
Pat, this is not about Ohio Checkbook, but I'll kind of go back a little bit more about transparency. I know at some of the local levels here in the counties, a lot of the county treasurers and auditors' offices are putting property tax information online. So it makes it real simple to go out there and do a simple property search and find out what a piece of property is appraised for and find all that information. And that transparency is really good for the consumer.
I truly believe you're right. Because many times, first of all, those that vote, I think, are held high in esteem. And oftentimes, right before voting, you hear all sorts of different strange things that the opponents talk about. Here you have an actual...
But this new platform is probably freeing up a lot of time and effort that was spent on public requests for information.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Because all of this information, it is your tax money. It is available to you to ask.
Yes.
But a lot of times, no one ever asked because you had to go through so many different levels of bureaucracy to find the information.
Yep. Yep, this is very easily accessible. It's at your fingertips. It's easily navigable. I mean, with the Google-style search bar, the most obscure pieces of information can be arrived at by just using that simple search bar. So it does cut a lot of corners and saves a lot of headaches from having to call this department or that department for a certain record that you're looking to review.
So was this an initiative from some of the legislative bodies or the governor, or?
No, this actually started with the treasurer who got some gentlemen in the state house to represent this bill for transparency, this fight for transparency. Josh, you'll hear him say, Treasurer Mandel will always say, the greatest disinfectant to government waste is shining light in places the sun doesn't shine. So we started in the House of Representatives, where it passed unanimously with 96 votes unanimously for it. Now Senate Bill 46 is in the Senate and awaiting its point. And the thing is that transparency is an important thing to the state of Ohio. Like I said, we talked about this, setting the new national standard. We have to keep this ball rolling on transparency. It just doesn't stop here. The buck doesn't stop here. We're working to try to get local governments on, schools online, making sure that we get villages online. So we're working every day diligently. The treasurer is traveling around the state of Ohio, talking with these local officials, government officials, to get their spending online.
So this initiative started with Josh Mandel.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
But his term is nearly up. Will this continue with the next treasurer?
See, this is the whole thing. Josh, you'll hear Josh say, now you'll hear me say that a lot. The treasurer says it's not about Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Vegetarian. He doesn't care. Actually, on Monday, he was in Toledo with the Toledo Public Schools, Dr. Romulus Durant. But there was a surprise guest there. It was actually Kevin Boyce, State Representative Kevin Boyce, who 5 years ago Josh went head-to-head with for the election of state treasurer. So this is not about Republican or Democrat. This was a Democrat standing with the Republican shoulder to shoulder about transparency. So 5 years ago, these guys were, head-to-head for this job of treasurer. And Josh is working with the legislature to make sure that once he's out of office, that this stands statutorily in the law that every treasurer must put the state expenditures online.
I think that's very, very important. You seem to have two groups of individuals. There are those that have a need, and sometimes through no fault of their own, they have to rely on some of the resources, the public welfare resources that would be available. Are those kinds of individual individuals, are they also on the transparency?
We've partnered with a lot of people and gotten a lot of great feedback on the transparency initiative. And honestly, when we're approaching any given government entity about wanting to participate, we get very warm responses, and they're very receptive to the idea.
So it's primarily geared toward those entities or organizations that there could be some problems with keeping accurate records rather than on an individual basis.
Well, because it's a partnership, and we're using our platform as a way for them to display their financial data, it is their choice as to how the data is being presented and what data exactly is going to be presented on OhioCheckbook.com.
Okay.
And so we're just honestly providing this as a technological tool for them to be able to offer transparency through their entity or through their organization.
And the nice thing is, it is not geared toward one specific group or entity or one political power. It's everyone.
Yep, even libraries. We're even hoping that at some point libraries will be able to be willing to post their information online.
So I better get all my, I better return all my library
your late
books.
fees.
How many years does that go back? Because the checkbook only goes back to 2008. Is that right?
Yeah.
So
we're good.
So you're good before 1990?
Yeah, we're good.
So transparency is a national issue. We're looking at every state is implementing some form of policy to become more transparent.
Yeah, well, that's right. You know, like we said, we were 46 in the nation in transparency. We looked at the counterpart who was actually number one at the time, Indiana. It doesn't hold a candle to what we're doing in Ohio as far as transparency. Like we said, we're the one of a kind. We're the newest style of what transparency looks like. We have set the standard of what transparency is going to look like in the future.
So do we have other states that are looking to us as an example to how to build their state's model?
We would like to think that we're setting a tone for what transparency should be at the state level. We'd like to even think that we're setting a tone for what transparency should look like at the national level. So we're really hoping to have conversations with different states and maybe even eventually the federal government about providing information to the taxpayers about how it is that their money is being spent.
Yeah, I think there was some recent statistics stating that the state of Ohio, their financial records in the last 3-4 years has really drastically improved. You know, just not with the treasurer's office, but with a number of the different departments. And so it sounds like many of the political leaders up in Columbus and surrounding areas sort of put their politics aside and started working together.
That's right. You know, the checkbook, another great facet of the checkbook is you have a search, compare, and share functionality of the checkbook. We actually have stories from the Department of Taxation, the Department or the Ohio Arts Council, which said they actually used our checkbook to do interdepartmental comparison to see how much they were spending versus other departments, which this is exactly what we want from the checkbook, is that departments are being beholden to the citizens on how much they're spending. They were looking at office equipment and how much was being spent versus, you know, the Department of Labor or the Department of Housing, you know, the Department of Public Safety. You have the ability on here to compare against all of the other departments in the state. So this is truly a great testament of what's being used with this checkbook.
Well, accountability is a great thing.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anytime you can keep an eye, you know, I think about my kids. You know, they're both on Facebook, you know, and they know Dad's on Facebook with them, so they don't put the stuff out there that they don't want Dad to see.
That's right.
And that's kind of the same thing. If we've got a tool like the checkbook out there to where any citizen could go on and do a search to see what the state's spending, those officials at the state level are going to think twice before they make an expenditure that maybe they should not be making.
Right.
That's right, exactly. You know, this is easily navigable, this is accessible, it's open. Mind you, transparency now in 2015, it isn't about putting, you know, Excel sheets. It's got to be interactive.
Right.
People have their cell phones in their hands. They have to have information at their fingertips. So if it's not online, it's not accessible and it's not transparent. And you made the great point that, this checkbook really holds the fire under public officials' feet. Instead of a state representative or a local government official going to a conference in Hawaii, they'll think twice now and go to a conference in Cincinnati rather than going to, L.A. or Miami, Florida.
Or Vegas.
Or Vegas.
Or Vegas.
Or Vegas. Which I think, Patrick, you would like to go there, wouldn't you? Would you?
I have about $40 and I can go right to the slot
Penny
machine.
slots.
Yeah.
Penny slots. There you go.
I had an opportunity to look again at your website. It's filled with information. I saw on there unclaimed funds.
That's right.
And it's with the Department of Commerce. So let me understand this correctly. If I put my name in there, naturally it's very secure. It will demonstrate if I have unpaid something or other.
That's right.
And I think that's really good.
Yeah, that's right. There are entities around the state of Ohio who actually report unclaimed funds, whether that you left the job or the job left, the state, that you have leftover money that is returned to the unclaimed funds. You can search to find out whether it's a family member, yourself. I haven't heard of anyone actually hitting the big jackpot with the unclaimed funds. But there's also one area to note that there are actually bounty hunters out there who misuse this information to try to get your money or a percentage of your money. They'll find your name, find where you are, say they found it. They'll ask for a finder's fee.
See.
And you don't have to do that. You can actually go on OhioCheckbook.com.
That's interesting.
Or tos.ohio.gov to find that information.
Well, it's right there, and it's very smooth and seamless. You also have a few other downloadable resources. The Treasurer's Office has been very, very good to the small businesses.
That's right.
And there are a number of different tips and programs and educational tools. They're very actively involved with real money, real world, Grow Now. It is a program well worth taking a look at. We only have a few more minutes, and I know that there's a lot of things that you still want to cover, and unfortunately we'll have to forego the amusing stories. but care to share anything else?
Any final comments that maybe we missed that you would like our
Laura, you
listeners
want
to
to go
know?
first?
Well, I just really appreciate the opportunity to be able to share with you all this tool and what it can mean to your own research and to understanding the ways that your tax dollars are being spent. And we really hope that it is being of service to you.
I think very much so it is.
Well, thank you.
That's good. And I just want to note finally that this comes at no cost to our local governments. We look forward to partnering with local governments out there, and if there are any citizens watching, we ask that you call your county commissioners, your council officials, your mayor, and ask them to put their information online. Your local government seal will end up online with us, and it comes at no cost to you. This is about transparency. There's no R or D or L next to transparency. This is about doing the right thing for citizens in the state of Ohio, so they know where their money is going. We look forward to the partnership. We look forward to the future of Ohio and making sure Ohio stays #1 in transparency.
Absolutely.
Good. Well, you will have to come back and talk about some of the different programs that are available to small businesses. The Grow Now and the re-energizing. There's a lot of different programs, but I thank both of you for coming.
Thank you
for
very
having us.
much.
Yes, thank you for the information on the Ohio Checkbook. I was unaware that it was out there, but I think this is a fantastic thing for the citizens of Ohio.
Well, thank you.
Remember, OhioCheckbook.com.
Yes. So please come back. Upcoming, we have two gentlemen, Josh and Mike. They are with the Envy Ink Tattooing.
And they're going to be tattooing you live on television, right, Pat?
I have an aversion to needles.
That's all right. They've got stuff that'll take care of that.
Well, the interesting thing about at lunchtime we were talking a little bit. They are very, very careful about the medical,
the sanitation
the
side,
sanitation,
and the health,
and that's what really impressed me. And
they're serious about what they do.
Yeah, yeah, and their artwork. I wanted to show them my stick dogs and my stick figures.
That's what I want. I want you to tattoo a stick dog on me.
Well,
I think our time is up. Am I correct?
Yes. I'm Patrick.
I'm Jason.
I'm Lauren.
And I'm Josh Burton.
Thank you for listening.